Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder to some first impressions on the CCVL. This fantastic, odd-looking, or rather cool-looking US light tank of rank 6 and battle rating 10.0 is not a premium, but a reward tank in the ongoing crafting event Overpowered. And in the right situations, this tank is definitely overpowered. So I just want to talk about the statistics of this tank, the characteristics, and also where it stands in the US territory and ground forces in general, and also, just like I did with the SMS Ostfriesland, put it into perspective on the marketplace with my personal expectations. Let's get right into it. Let's start with the armor, which is basically there to prevent the crew from falling out and rain getting in. It is cladded in some 6mm of high hardened rolled armor, and the rest is at maximum 38mm of aluminium alloy 5083. Every SPA will shred you, and you're just safe at distance from 50 cals, and I wouldn't even rely on this. It's a big, juicy XP and Silver Lion Pinata. That's basically what it is. So don't get shot. That's just how you should play. That is what also makes the strength, because therefore it weighs only 19.5 tons. When you get hit, the shell will either hit the crew or the ammo. It's rare that you receive a shot and it doesn't do any damage. So the ready rack is great, we'll talk about in just a moment, and the shells are standing upright, so it's almost like a Russian tank. It goes up in flames in a spectacular fashion. Then let's talk about the speed. 19.5 tons are propelled by a 575 horsepower strong engine, giving it a horsepower to ton ratio of just under 30. That's great, and the top speed of 69 kilometers per hour is juicy. But here are two issues. Because your tracks are so narrow, you have a very high ground pressure, and I think also you don't have the grip on the ground to bring the power to the ground, so you have not as high of an acceleration as one has to expect from such a horsepower to ton ratio, and you really feel this when you try to brake. You just skid a few meters more than you would expect from any other tank. So in a way it behaves a little bit like a wheeled tank, if I would exaggerate. And also the reverse gear with at max 14 kilometers per hour feels surprisingly slow, even though it isn't catastrophically slow. I would expect from a light tank with such a high horsepower to ton ratio to go in reverse just faster, but it's limited to 14 kilometers per hour. So the speed is certainly there, and if you give it some time and let it run on an open map, it can certainly actually hit the top speed of 60 to 69 kilometers per hour. Then we come to the gun. It's the 105mm M68A1 cannon with 43 rounds of total ammunition capacity. The ready rack with 19 rounds plus the one in the chamber gives you roughly half of your ammunition supply as the 5-second reload one before you have to go through the long refill of the ready rack. That's more than enough for any given battle, for any normal situations, and it's cool, it's really great. And the 5-second reload is independent from your crew skills, so you don't need to buy the expert qualification, although it helps with certain other aspects, for example repair speed. And even if you lose a crew member, you're still completely functional when it comes to the firepower. So then we come to the gun handling. 10 degrees of gun depression and 20 degrees of gun elevation are the golden standard in my opinion, and when it comes to the turret rotation speed, it's also really great with 42 degrees per second, actually only beaten by some SPA. What is a little bit surprising is when you're outside of the realms of the stabilizer, the vertical gun elevation speed is not great for such a top tier tank with only 11 degrees per second, so that can catch you by surprise. Don't let it happen. And this is when we then have to talk about the other aspects, because this tank has not just thermal imaging, not the best quality, but certainly better than normal standard night vision, and a really great, precise, quick laser rangefinder. And that is just fantastic to bring in the various different sorts of ammunition. The stock round that you will first get is the M456A2 heated S round, standard 400mm of penetration, like so many other 105mm guns. Then as a tier 1 you have the choice to research the smoke shell, which doesn't really have all that much purpose. Then you also have the M735 as a tier 1 upgrade, which is definitely the shell that you should get first. Muzzle velocity of 1.5 kilometers per second is fantastic. 353mm of penetration gives you not enough penetration versus every target, especially in an up tier, but it certainly hits hard when you hit the side, or when you hit a weak spot such as the driver's hatch, the lower glacis, or the gun breech area of, for example, Russian tanks. As a tier 2 upgrade, you have the hash round, the M393A2, great for popping the turrets from SPA, etc., and lobbing it over ridge lines because of the low muzzle velocity of 732 meters per second. It's a niche shell, I would say, and versus ERA, versus composite armor and spaced armor, it's actually bad, but you know, experts know how to use it, mostly you don't. And then you also have, as a tier 4 upgrade, the second APFSDS, the M833, a bit slower with 1485 meters per second muzzle velocity, but penetration goes up to 395 millimeters at point blank range and 228 millimeters at 60 degrees angles of attack. At 1000 meters you retain up to 381 millimeters of penetration and 220 millimeters at 60 degrees angles of attack. Not a bad shell, but I've seen better. And I think that this is kind of the trade-off for that you have a 105mm gun rather than a 120 at this battle rating. Again, just like with the previous M735, you should aim for weak spots and don't rely on going through the frontal protection of the hull or the turret of modern MBTs, especially in an up tier, as you will see in or as we might have seen here and there. There is a great example, look at this, just missed the lower glacis, and the T80 UK absorbed the shot. He is completely oblivious to my presence, and then I had a bit of bad and good luck. We aim for the lower glacis and then pop his turret, and sadly there is an STRV 122A, and I beat his reload due to the autoloader, but just miss the hull by a few pixels, reverse just in time to then absorb the shell into the turret ring. So he will regret it later. So you have overall fantastic gun handling, you have really great speed, you don't have overpowered ammunition but good enough, and well, your armor is not really worth mentioning. This tank is fantastic. If it's your first top tier tank, it has all the stuff to play with. What do I expect it from the marketplace? Well, I think that many people speculate on really high prices for this tank, and because it's US, because it's top tier, and because so many other rewards have gone to very high prices, there are expectations of high prices, so many people will assemble it and in time want to sell it for the big 10 years anniversary sales at the end of October around Halloween. And so we have currently around 53 gauging points of costs. It will drop maybe a little bit, but in the long run, because of the high demand and low supply by it, it will rise in price quite considerable, especially regarding its performance. I would not recommend paying as much. Get it for free if you can right now. You still have maybe a little bit of time, and it's up to you what you really want as a collector, as a completion for your lineup, whatever. There are many possibilities. I personally like the tank. I think it has good performance, and I think that it might be a candidate for certain people to put a talisman on it if you don't have already quite a lot of reward tanks in the US tech tree or even premiums. But maybe you wait a little bit for the talisman, because again it will have a discount when there are the big sales. And that's it for me today. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this tank. Have you played with it already? Have you played against it? What do you think about the combination of all those light tank tools with also a 5-second reload and that speed? Do you think it's just another top tier tank? Do you think it's a really potent player or tank for top tier players? Let me know, and as usual, please give this video a like with it, subscribe if you want to see more, and hit the bell for the engagement with the algorithm. For you it's just a couple of clicks, for me it means the world, and as usual we will see each other on the waves in the skies and on the battlefields of War Thunder.